you're like maybe considering
drifting off.
just drifting off into the sunset and never coming back, and sort of
Kind of like a High Plains drifter style.
Yeah. Is there anyone like that like a situation or like a movie where someone just sort of disappears out of nowhere? I'm thinking of a movie. And this is
Mission Stories 2.
Mission Stories 2. Famous Hey, welcome to Mission Stories. My name is Troy, and we're now recording, and I do this little trick on my guests and co-hosts sometimes where I start recording and we'll be talking, but really, we're recording.
Oh, it gets me every time.
And you need to be on your toes. I'm here as always with my co-host Lyndon. Hello, Lyndon.
Hello.
That was a low energy hello, and I don't appreciate it, and I want to try.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast.
Okay, well, that's too much.
How can you do that and still be so monotone?
It's a gift.
Yeah,
As
it
you
really is.
can tell, we have another person with us, a guest. Her credentials. What am I trying to say?
Your
Just
gold
pull up-
blooming.
Pull up the prepared sheet.
Your credentials are
The life finds a way.
life finds a way.
As they say. She's an institute champion. You're a teacher there, I think.
Yeah, I do teach.
And you're an administrator. You keep it all on the rails in the Calgary IRC YSA. Maybe not IRC. Is that you?
I dabble.
Is it even called IRC anymore?
It's ISC, Institute Student Council. but
Weird.
People still call it IRC.
I don't like it.
Institute Regional Council. I don't like change.
Change is bad.
Go back to the old acronym.
So we got Cindy Russell on the podcast today. Cindy, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
You're a real get.
Oh.
You're one of the gets.
Oh.
Because I remember there used to be another podcast that did sort of the same thing. They started before us.
They did.
And I remember you were the episode that I think I was listening to. Shane, our buddy Shane was. I don't know if he was like officially co-host.
I think he was
There's like 5
sitting
episodes,
in.
so
yeah.
it's hard. I don't know. Anyway, so that I listened to your episode.
You did?
I started to. Oh. I didn't get the whole way through, and this was a little while ago. But I remember,
I was that captivating.
No, you were, but I just remember feeling extremely jealous, and I just couldn't make it through because there was some good banter there.
Yeah.
And
I felt like I talked a lot in that one, though, so I have to try and hold back.
oh, don't
and not
worry.
Talk as much
We'll
in
be
this
doing
one.
a lot of the talking here.
Okay.
You'll get cut off extensively.
Do you ever use like your radio? Like, I guess you guys have really good podcast voices.
Oh.
But I was really a bit self-conscious when I was coming back to do another podcast because I was like, who can I channel as my podcast voice? Do I need to go deeper, slower?
You just need to talk normal. It is funny. Different people's like speaking voices. I don't know. I think people have a stigma about speaking into a microphone where they like lower their voice a little bit to like because they think it's gonna like blow up.
Yeah,
the
you don't
room.
want like that high feedback of talking really loud and getting really animated about stuff.
Yeah. It's all about
Putting
finding those
inflection on
levels.
everything.
Hey, don't be afraid to blow out the mic. I do it on the regular.
He just did, just now. Yeah, we're a poor little operation here, so we can't afford to.
Not true. This
have,
this is grandiose.
All of this has broken me, and so I'm the only one who can afford what's it called, headphones. I'm having a hard time reaching for words today. Do you?
You got a little bit of that aphasia.
Yeah, so I hope this granola bar I bit into starts to take effect. That's what they do, right?
That
Granola
is,
bars
yeah.
help you remember words.
Lexicon,
So what,
vocabulary
ooh,
boosting.
nice word.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What character voice are you going for?
Well, do you remember how everything comes back to Saturday Night Live for me? You guys are probably too young for this.
Mm-mm.
There was a skit with Molly Shannon and Anna Gasteyer, and they did a...
Yeah, I'm too young for that.
You are.
Just kidding.
They did a NPR radio show called Delicious Dish.
Oh,
talk like this.
sweaty balls. Or something?
Yeah, that was one of them. Was the most famous one was
Was
sweaty balls.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like, anyways, I'm channeling that. Good times. Good times.
Good times. Maybe we should try that, Lyndon.
Well, because we have voices. Like, I have like my retail voice,
Yeah.
which
We
is
do.
which is the same as my mission voice.
Uh huh.
Because oftentimes when I'm at work, they'll be like, "Oh, are you American?" And I'm like, no, I get that a lot. That's
Like,
my...
Nah, I'm just at work right now.
What's your retail voice?
Well, so here's what I've picked up. Is I'll be like, "Do you want a bag with that?" It's never the Canadian, "Do you want a bag? Do you want a bag with that?"
Hey, do you want a bag
I
with
think-
it?
It's always, "Do you want a bag with that?"
I think you're being generous and drawing a distinction between that and your regular voice.
So I got this whole other identity at work,
Well, no, I
basically,
just-
where I
Like, it's just
when
it's
I'm at
one little
work,
thing. And this one lady was just like,
my A's sound different.
yeah, well, that's, yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
it.
imperceptible to other people.
Well, it's
I know it's there.
it's perceptible enough that they ask me if I'm American.
See, mine is my phone voice. I'm like, Calgary Institute, Cindy speaking,
Yeah.
right? Or when you're on, and especially when I'm talking to people and they're asking me questions, because you don't want people to feel like they're asking you a dumb question.
So first mission question of
Yeah.
the podcast.
That wasn't a really good segue there.
No, but it is because the mission question is about phone calls. Had you spoken to people like on the phone before you went on your mission?
Ever? Yes, I had used a telephone before
Honestly,
I was on the mission.
No, but like
as a child, even I would use
people
the phone.
other than your parents or your family. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, really?
Yeah, for sure. Like I worked for an insurance. I worked for an insurance agency, and I would talk on the phone.
Were you speaking in tongues just then?
Yeah, I think that just happened. Wow, you guys, this podcast is amazing.
The first person
interpret
who
it, Lyndon.
can
What did I just
interpret
say?
She tried to say insurance agency, but she said it in tongues.
It's
in
true.
in the language of Adam, I believe.
Parcel tongue, maybe.
So I was like
stroke tongue.
I was bad at talking on the phone. I was afraid of it, like very early on in my mission. I don't know. Were you good at this, Lyndon? Speaking on the phone
Of course.
to strangers?
Of course I was good at it.
Well, of course me. I don't mean.
Of course.
Did you do it a lot on the mission? Like I remember doing it in the MTC, fielding the calls that would come in. Do they still have the call center at the MTC?
Well, when I went in 2008, they did.
I was there in
Why are you
2006, so I wasn't there too much earlier than you.
You're asking us like we got out 2 weeks ago.
I know.
Actually, I think now the MTC is like they put on like the virtual goggles.
Yeah.
And they just sit
And they plug into your
Oculus Rift.
neck. Yeah.
Yeah, and you
It's all just a virtual experience now.
you enact your whole mission via virtual reality first beforehand, and then you go actually serve the mission. I think is what they're doing now.
Second Life.
So anyway,
Yes, I did talk on my mission on the phone before I went
just-
on my mission.
Well, let's explore this. Troy, you got frazzled by the phone.
Yeah.
I just had this. I have this memory where my companion forced me to set up a dinner appointment. I think it was, or a team up or something. And he just like passes the phone to me because he's doing everything else because he's the senior companion and the trainer, and he's like planning and doing stuff. And so the phone's just in front of me, and I'm just like, what do you want me to do with this phone? And he's like, call someone and do something. And I just remember, and I was like, what do you want me to say? You know, like, how do I? He's like, ask for a dinner, and be like, okay, like, how do I say that though? You know, like I literally
turned into Rain Man.
yeah, honestly,
Definitely dial in the phone. Definitely dial the phone.
I died of it. So I really, are we gonna get taken down for that 1 second?
I
depression?
said Rain Man. I didn't refer to an actual person.
Side note, I'm all the more sensitive of like things I say now because like often like we'll do an episode and then my parents will be like, hey, like,
That's not okay.
you said this, like you can't say that. And I was like, oh. So anyway, hopefully they don't get upset with my Rain Man impression. Back to what I was saying about phones.
You
Setting
needed
up an
a script.
appointment.
It was tough.
I needed a script and it was tough. But you had no problem with that, and neither did you.
No,
I'm a
shouldn't
big dummy.
Like on my I was served in Ecuador, right? So speaking Spanish. I hated in the beginning speaking Spanish on the phone because, I mean, it was hard enough to do in person, but doing it over the phone, you know, it was stressful. Yeah. I didn't like it.
Did you pick up Spanish pretty quickly, or is 9 months a correct time frame? That's what I've kind of been told.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's about right.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it depends more on your companions, to be honest. Like, not to push the MTC agenda of like always be speaking your language. Yeah. But it does make a big difference. Like my trainer was all of my companions up until my last 2 transfers were gringas. So it was hard to speak in Spanish together. Yeah. Especially when you were, the depths that I could go into talking about my mission. It was hard. So on hard days, you didn't want to, like, you know, fart around with subjunctive and, you know, all that crap.
Are you saying you had some crap companions? Is that
no. Getting? I didn't have bad companions.
Just a bad mission.
Let me give you a little bit of, I'll give you some context for my mission here, okay? Mm-hmm. And then you can just drive the conversation however you want.
Okay.
I know that you have heard probably from people like, there was my mission, you know, people were really disobedient and people blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I've never heard anyone that comes close to my mission. My mission president was actually stripped of his authority 6 months before the end of his mission. And the area authority came in and became like the one who did the transfers, the one who. So
your mission president was apostate?
Well, no, I wouldn't categorize him as apostate, but I would say
he was stripped of his powers.
No, and even that is an overgeneralization.
Tarred and feathered.
What happened was there was so much that had happened in the mission that when it came to light in Salt Lake, they went in and basically were like, okay, this has gotten so far and this has just gone on so long and this has gone so deep and it's so like institutionalized now that we have to do a clean sweep here with leadership. So he would go, as far as I know, this happened after I left, so I'm just going off of what I've understood, but he would go to zone conferences and speak, but he didn't have any authority to do any of the transfers, to do anything that a mission president does.
So who did that stuff?
The area authority.
The APs. They just were like,
no.
We got it from here, Prez.
No.
So did you call him president still, or was it just like...
Well, see, that happened after I left. But while I was on my mission, I called him president. But yeah, like...
That's so crazy.
The whole, you know, secret combinations, all that, like that was alive and well.
How delinquent in your duties do you truly... Like, how much stuff needs to be going on behind your... right under your nose and you can't even smell it?
No, he knew. He knew.
Oh, he knew?
He knew.
He was encouraging it?
No, not encouraging it.
But he knew.
But his stance was, I don't want to send anybody home because that'll ruin their life. So basically nothing that you could do could get you sent home. Nothing.
Not a pregnancy?
I never heard of a pregnancy, but everything leading up to a pregnancy.
Murder.
You could kill one man as long as he had not a lot of ties.
And didn't have a family.
Yeah, if he's a drifter. You could kill 2 drifters.
And it was for witchcraft purposes.
Yeah. You had to be summoning.
Bring me the tears of a hobo.
Yeah. The blood of an innocent.
Yeah. I mean, this is difficult. I can't. I feel bad because I'm like, okay,
you're crapping on him.
Don't take this the wrong way.
Are you afraid to say he did a bad job?
No,
Are we about to be offended, Lyndon and I?
I'm nervous because I'm like, how big is this podcast gonna get? Is this gonna haunt me?
Oh, will it get? Oh, that's very optimistic of you. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for other people. I should only just speak for myself.
Sure, this will go on the internet and people will listen to this.
Yeah. So
dozens.
So speaking for myself,
tens of people.
My experience was there were things happening regularly that would have gotten people sent home in an instant.
Can you give us some examples?
Oh,
Yeah, we got a lot of true and
relationships.
faithful that want to hear about this.
They're just wringing their hands
well,
right now.
what's the rating of your podcast here? Are we PG?
I mean, don't say the F
14.
word,
but we can talk about sex. We talked about pornography, so
Okay.
subject matter wise, I don't think there's anything off limits.
Mature audiences only.
I mean, at the same time,
We're
you know,
drawing
when
back on our cuss
when you
words,
say
too.
something that's really like, you know, salacious and
Yeah.
like that's what people remember. So I want to be
Uh-huh.
careful not to be like,
Should we do the base system? First, second, third, home run.
ew. I don't know. No, okay. So, yay.
So, okay.
So I will
we
say,
don't have to get into these specifics. You seem
no,
uncomfortable.
missionaries obviously in relationships.
With
there was
each
one
other,
missionary, yeah,
with members of the church.
with each other, with members of the church, with married members of the church, elders in relationships with underage members of the church.
And when you say relationship, you're talking about like in the carnal, biblical to know
some of them,
definitely.
someone. Yes, to know someone biblically.
In the biblical way.
Yes.
That's what you're referring to.
Yes, there was one elder who actually left the mission because he heard his girlfriend was dating someone else, and he went home and confronted her and the new boyfriend and got into a fight and then came back into the mission and didn't get sent home for it.
He just took a little
It
a
was
jaunt.
just-
He's just
it
like,
was
I gotta
like,
head back to
"Oh,
Peru
God,
for a
I gotta
second.
go get my house in order. Yeah.
Okay, so I had this like vision in my mind that it was like some American dude who like
hopped
flew
on a
home
plane?
to America, but
Well,
I guess
they
it
actually
was.
kept our passports in the mission office. Did they do that for you guys too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they? I think I had mine the whole time.
Did
I
you?
swear I carried it in my backpack with me every day or something.
Well,
At
I
least for
guess-
one transfer.
I guess in Georgia, it's not like.
No, I shouldn't have done that.
No,
Like,
it's
that
still
was
not
dumb,
smart,
But yeah.
No, there was one elder who was sort of like the godfather, the self-proclaimed godfather. And the way that it worked was they actually... So the mission president, by all accounts, what it looked like was he was very quick to put the elders that he got along with in positions of authority. District leader, zone leader, AP, right? So I don't know if that's pretty standard across the board, but that's the way it worked in our mission. And the elders were very aware of that, so it was very easy to buddy up to the mission president and be like, hey, you know, and then he'd put them in these. So there was this plot, I guess, or this pattern, I'll say, that unfolded where these
combination
kind of skeevy guys
that was secret.
were climbing up, and certainly not all. Like I love my zone leaders and district leaders. I had great ones throughout my mission, but especially in the coast, which was sisters weren't allowed to serve in the coast. It was too dangerous. So there wasn't a lot of attention given out there. So the zone leaders and district leaders that were put in place, they were all sort of part of this
Cabal.
Let's
A collaboration.
a collaboration.
A cartel.
Where they would sort of work together to sweep things under the rug, to, you know, turn a blind eye.
Disobedience.
Let's put these, and it was like, let's put these elders together because they can go and do, you know, they want to do the same thing, and then let's put these elders
Take
together.
the snitches and the rats and put them in the far corners of the mission.
Yeah, kind of, right?
Is that a bad idea?
Well,
Or is it a good idea?
well, there was one elder in particular who was kind of at the heart of all of it, and he came home. He was from the States. He came home, and he kind of, from what I hear, had some pangs of guilt and went and talked to his stake president or bishop and told him what happened, and the bishop or stake president was like, okay, we need to take this up.
Oh, we
the
have a
pike little bit.
problem.
Yeah, and so essentially what happened was it went back to the mission office in Salt Lake, and all these friends of mine that had since come home from their mission start getting called in and interviewed, like, what was going on when you were there? What was going on when you were there? And so then after all these interviews, that's when things...
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he like got like a plea deal. Like he's like, I
Plea
need
bargain.
immunity.
Yeah.
Well,
These are all
I
the
think
things
it was
I've
really
done.
encouraging because he was brilliant. He was a brilliant guy. Like, he knew doctrine inside and out. And he was...
So he's a white guy
Yeah.
from like Utah or something?
Yeah. But I was actually really impressed when I heard that he came home and was like, okay, no, I can't live with this. Like, that's not right. Because he could have easily just come home and been like, scot-free, return with honor.
Yeah.
Done, you know? But it was his conscience that was like, no, I got to do something about this.
This young missionary that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So what became of this mission president of yours?
I mean, as far as I know, he's still active.
He's a general authority now.
I don't know. Like, this is the thing. I don't want to paint him as a picture as like, you know, he'd sit back and smoke cigars during his own conference or something, right?
Like he'd wait till afterwards when, you know, smoking laws
he was very
and all
sweet.
that.
He was a very sweet man, very loving. Everything that he did was he just wanted to show people love and compassion. And so I think that he just got taken advantage of, really.
Here's a side question. On the topic of love and intentions and what's best for someone. Your mission president is sort of the story of a man who wanted everyone to be, I don't know, he wanted to have compassion for everyone.
Yeah, gold stars for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
No one left behind.
as a result of that, rampant disobedience, there was no standard to uphold, sounds like. I don't know. What do you think in our own lives, in our own situations where any sort of leadership scenario or when we all have our eventual children, not together, but, you know, in some sort of trio.
Well, the night is young.
I can tell you what my mission president said. Because
What did
he
he say?
often used the Phoenix mission as an example where that mission president got cancer, left to go get treatment, left the APs in charge of the mission.
Yeah.
You can imagine how that happened or how that worked out. And then when he came back, he was like, I just love these guys too much to discipline them. And my mission president was like, I love you guys too much to let you do anything stupid.
To not discipline you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard because I think the easy answer would be like giving people boundaries and restrictions and those, you know. It shows them that you love them because, you know, it helps them grow and learn and everything.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, what I can say is for those of us that served and chose to be obedient, and I'm being generous. I did a lot of stupid stuff on my mission. I mean, nothing that I think would have gotten me sent home, but stupid stuff.
Let's hear it.
I'll tell you about some of it. Just
What's the worst
put
thing
a
you
put
ever
a little
did?
put a little bullet point in your notes there and be like, come back to stupid stuff Cindy did on her mission.
Stupid stuff. Okay.
Though there was those of us who were like, no, we're here because we want to be missionaries. We want that lifestyle. We want to do the work. We want to teach people, and we were honest about it. And I think that for me, that taught me the lesson that it comes from you. Like, if my obedience is hinged on wanting to avoid punishment or penance or whatever, then it's not as strong as if I was given free reign and that's what I chose to do.
I was just about to sort of lead us in that direction anyway, at least ask the question of like, or maybe even like use the example of when you move away from home or whatever, and you're sort of out from underneath the watch of your parents, and no one's telling you to wash the dishes or do the laundry or do any number of chores, tasks. For me anyway, I found like, oh, I just do them. You know, like you just have to do them, and sort of you step up. Maybe for some people, you step up to the challenge when there's no sort of framework and nothing to fight against.
Yeah.
You just realize there's stuff to get done. There's ways to live that are,
If you don't do it, it doesn't get done.
yeah,
Right?
good or bad. Do you think maybe there's other people who need that sort of like weight on them, or someone else to be
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say no, but I don't know. I can speak for myself, and I know that I certainly took liberties.
Let's hear about those.
Okay.
How liberal were you on the mission with those?
Remember, this is all relative to Ecuador.
rules? Yeah.
It's relative to Ecuador. That's it. That's
It's a bell
exactly
curve.
right. We would take basically any opportunity that we could as sisters, like all the sister companionships and districts.
Yep.
We would be like, yeah, we're doing a service project this weekend, so let's have a sleepover. So we'd all like come to one of the apartments and we'd have a sleepover and we'd be like, let's watch Charlie, or let's watch, one time we watched Pride and Prejudice, and like,
Okay.
you know, that kind of stuff where it's
Okay.
like, is it the worst thing in the world? No. But is it, you know, would it make a innocent person blush? Perhaps.
Would it make young Elder Cooper
Yeah.
fuming with rage at the apostasy? Yeah, it would. It frickin' would. He'd get pretty mad.
Okay, well, now let me say that in my mission, when you traveled between cities, which was often, you'd go in these public buses and they would put a movie on, and it wouldn't be like, put your headphones on to listen. Like, they just played the audio and the movie was playing. And so they told us, they're like, you know, if it's not an appropriate movie, just try and, you know, read your scriptures or try and, right?
Yeah, okay.
But if it's, you know, if the movie's not inappropriate, you can watch it. And so, right? Sometimes it would be, I like
What's
I said,
the worst one?
the worst movie that I saw,
Yeah.
the one that stands out the most in my mind is The Marine. I watched The Marine so many times on my mission, because that's the thing, is that the people choosing these movies did not know films beyond the repertoire of Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, and
Yes.
so that's what you would watch, right? Like Kung Fu. This one day they put Braveheart on, and my companion had never seen it. I was like, oh, you gotta watch it, but it was in Spanish, and I was like, it kind of waters it down when it's in Spanish, at least for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so we watched a lot of movies.
I watched, did I tell I feel like I probably have.
Did you watch a movie on your mission?
Yeah, so we were allowed to watch one movie on our mission called Prince Caspian, and it was the night we would go home.
Like the Narnia one?
Yeah, Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, and as an assistant to the mission president, one of the perks once a transfer was that we got to sit with the people going home and watch Prince Caspian with them.
So you watched that like 17 times.
Yeah, because I
Do
was
you know, I envy that you had that.
experience.
No, yeah, I envy that you got to watch Caspian 17 times.
I mean,
really-
you felt like a baller for sure. You felt like those guys
No,
on
but
Instagram with stacks of cash and they're like in a Lamborghini. That's what it feels like to be the AP sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it does
Great.
if your mission runs the way that it should, right? Like,
Oh, and ours was pretty.
yeah.
To hear stories of like South American missions,
It's like the Wild West, man. You're just like,
Yeah, that's
you're
what I
on
hear.
your own out there.
That'd be kind of cool though too.
There was this, you'll like this. Well, maybe you will. I hope you like this story.
Can you speak just like a little more into the mic?
a
Just
little closer?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite companions, Hanson,
Just one name,
well,
like Cher.
Sister Hanson.
Okay.
Hermana.
Hermana Hanson.
She didn't have a title. It was just
Hanson.
Hanson.
I called her Hancy Pants.
Mbop. Did you make mbop jokes? Like
I did not. I respected her more than that. So
Okay.
we there was one AP, and he's a nice guy, but he was very stern. Like, it was really hard to make him laugh. It was hard to get any sort of emotion out of him. And so during the transfers when I came into her area, it was at Christmas time, and the way that they did it, everybody came to Quito. Everybody came. If you knew you had a transfer, you brought your luggage, and then you found out at the Christmas dinner where you were going, essentially, right?
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But
Merry
the
Christmas.
the mission's so big, you got people coming from like 6 hours away, right?
Yeah.
So I had my luggage, and they took everybody's luggage to the AP's apartment. And then, you know, when you found out where your transfer was, you would go and get your luggage. Well, I went and got my luggage the next day because I was being transferred into Quito. So we went to the AP's apartment and okay. So I just spent my first night in this apartment that I would be living in for the next however many transfers. It was a dump. There was mold on the walls, slugs, spiders, like, I mean, there was cockroaches in every apartment, but there was termites, ants, a scorpion. Like, it was just
scorpion.
It was a dump.
He was king of the insects.
It was a dump. It was
We had
disgusting.
to barter trade with him.
Pay tribute of
Levies on food. It was a nightmare.
12 crickets a week.
The Scorpion King, of
I
course.
was gonna say. I was like trying to think of a rock joke in there. Anyways, so the
It
next
was
day,
literally Dwayne the Rock Johnson as the Scorpion King.
a miniature one
Full
riding a scorpion.
Yeah. Full CG.
So the next day we went to the AP's apartment to get my luggage, and we walk into this palatial apartment that has like a gym and it was enormous, and it had like a garden, and I was so irritated.
Probably pretty mad about that, weren't
I
you?
was really mad about
when you saw how the APs live.
a little bit. I
You
felt
walk
that
into that
glass
baller
ceiling
lifestyle,
crushing down on top of me.
Oh, I thought you meant their literal like glass.
No, there
dome
was a
ceiling
lot
on
of
their
glass.
apartment.
There was a lot of glass.
Yeah, a lot of open
symbolically.
lighting. It was really beautiful
White,
apartment.
beautiful, and it was
Yeah.
in this beautiful neighborhood. Meanwhile,
Overlooking.
there's dogs shrieking in the streets because they're stuck together in the middle of the night in my apartment.
Yeah, we had to sleep with a pack of dogs in my apartment.
Well, not in the apartment, but
It's like
Next to it.
yeah, essentially.
right by it.
Anyways,
It was
so
really close.
we decided we were going to steal something from this elder. And so
His patriarchal blessing.
we went. He had a CD.
His
Now
recommend.
back in the day, people used to listen to music on CDs.
And what is that again?
Those were called compact discs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we went and we found a
Laser disc.
collection of compact discs, and he had a Kenny G CD. So we stole it, and then we started taking ransom pictures with it and sending them to him every week.
Yeah.
So we'd get indigenous people to hold it up and be like, "Can we take a picture with you holding this?" And they're like, "Okay." I mean, people that we knew, of course.
Right.
But yeah, we would just get these
With the newspaper up as
Well,
well.
and
you
we'd
know,
be like,
today's date.
we want $20 in unmarked, non-sequential bills, stuff like that. And he's just like, I don't even care. Like he didn't find out it was us until later on. But when he found out it was us, he was like, you can keep it. I don't even care. We're like, dude.
He's like, should have taken
You're a
my
loser.
patriarchal blessing.
Yeah.
Probably did him a favor getting rid of Kenny G.
What was your most prized possession as a missionary? If you had one.
Besides your testimony.
My sanity.
All of your teeth in your
I
mouth.
had a sweater. So was this like this in your guys' mission? Like when you went to a new apartment, would you inherit like a bunch of clothes that people had left behind?
It's like
Is
a
that an elder's
like a
thing?
community pile of ties, perhaps,
Yeah.
or some
Shirts or something.
shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, usually just ties.
Take a penny, leave a penny situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the same for us. I inherited an Atlanta Falcons crew neck sweater.
Atlanta Falcons.
And-
represent.
And I loved it. I wore it all the time.
Proselyting.
Los Falcones.
You like football?
We like the football.
American football? Yeah, no, I never
love that.
I never thought that I was inheriting all of the clothes that were left behind in the next apartment. I
You
went
wouldn't
to.
bank on it?
Yeah, I wasn't like, I guess I keep this ball of ties. Ooh, oh, that was that Dave Hyatt who had the ball of ties?
Yeah.
Was that him?
Well, you could get clothes made for so cheap in Ecuador, right? Like you just go and buy fabric and you go to
Get it made.
Yeah, you just go to a tailor and be like, hey, this is the kind
Guess
of
that's
dress I
where
want.
it's made originally anyway. Some of it is. Oh, come on. Tell me you don't have some manufacturing in Ecuador. Come on.
Clothing?
Doubtful.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
Jamie will have to look
Now
that
who's
up.
racist? Hmm?
I'm not racist. I'm just...
If it's a developing country, they must have sweatshops there.
It's more like a economical assumption I made. Sorry. Plastered on tomorrow's Calgary Herald is me being taken away in a cop car.
That's old news.
Okay, so the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
I want to... Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just trying to think if there was anything else. I had one dress that I had made that I still have in hopes that one day it will fit again. But
Gosh, I know. I have some pants like that.
someday.
I tried to put on... Have you tried to put that dress on, like, recently?
No,
I tried to
I
put...
would. It would be a Hulk situation for sure.
I tried to put these pants on that I had from my mission, and yeah, I don't know, just embarrassing, just like Chris Farley, fat guy in a little coat situation, except with pants and around my waist. I'm just like come on, just testing the limits of what that button could do, you know.
Did you guys have, like, in your transfers in your areas, did you make T-shirts? Did you guys ever make T-shirts?
That was for apostates, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's an apostate only practice.
It's like, oh, you got a lot of time on your hands making T-shirts? Oh, okay, yeah. I was out baptizing.
Were you?
Yeah, pretty trying. Beating my head against the pavement trying to make it happen. Ineffectually. Yeah, that's probably the thing, like, with all of the apostasy, like, you guys probably baptized more than, 100 stateside missionaries combined.
On a more serious note, one of the things that I had the biggest struggle with on the mission was the fact that missionaries were out there to find new people.
Yeah.
When the need for retention, the need for was massive. You'd have these wards that had hundreds of members, and there was like 60 that would attend every week. Yeah. And you're like, why aren't we going and finding those people and talking to those people? And, of course, there was like, well, you can go and you can, touch base with them. But if they don't have people that haven't been baptized yet for you to teach, that's not your prime objective, you know? And that really irritated me.
So you were told to, like, focus on... Were you given any instructions as to, like, focusing on retention versus finding new people?
We were told to find new people.
Where's the chapter in Preach My Gospel on retention?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Let's write it.
I remember a lot of chapters about getting people in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's the wards problem, right?
Chapters
like,
1 through 9, get them in the water. Chapter 10 was like... And
pat yourself on the back.
It was.
Tell your family about it.
Here's the thing, though. I do agree, though, that the job of the missionary, or one of the jobs, or maybe it is the specific job of although maybe this was even like an antiquated sort of idea, maybe at this point, but like back in the day, it was like missionaries baptize, or they try to baptize. Like that's their like specific job. And it is sort of... Because they are so transitory and they're not there forever, like they can't really build relationships. And it's almost sometimes a little detrimental if someone gets attached to like a missionary and sort of, because you've seen that a bunch of times, right? Yeah. Where like someone gets baptized and like, as soon as their missionaries leave, there's no one else they're friends with in the ward. So they're just like, well, guess I'll go back to my old church or my old life.
Yeah.
I loved that sort of idea. Like people just really didn't understand, or they like, because for us it was like, this is life and death, spiritual life and death. This is heaven and hell if you come to church or not. And then for them it's like, this is pretty cool. I'll try this out for a bit.
Well, and how could it not be, right? Like, we're working with at least a year for those that have been a member of the church a year and then decide to serve a mission. You got at least a year under your belt. Yeah. Of living this lifestyle and, coming to understand more or less what the commitment is. And then you kind of, you're their training wheels for a while. Then you're just like, okay, you're on your own. Bye.
Oh, it's so true.
It's, I don't really agree with it.
We lead them to the slaughter for sure.
I will say this, and this may be a little bit more sentimental than you guys are used to on your podcast.
Okay, let's get sentimental.
You don't get too serious very often, I don't think. You avoid it.
I'm offended, and I choose to be offended.
Good, that's what I'm going for.
This is a serious discussion.
Okay, so what I will say is, and I say this to anybody that I know that's going on a mission, the most important thing that a missionary can do is focus on being a representative of Christ. Period. End of sentence. If that means that day all you get done is you help someone clean their house, you were a good missionary that day. If that means that you knocked on doors and didn't talk to anybody, but at the end of the day you did something nice for someone, like you did what you were supposed to do that day, right? The moments that stick out to me the most on my mission were the ones where I knew that that's where the Lord needed me to be, so that I could do what he would do if he was there. And it always involved just letting somebody know that they were loved, that they were seen, and that they were important. That's it.
That's so true, actually.
Right? Like, when it came to baptisms, did I see baptisms in my mission? Yes, I did. And, you know, there's some of them that are still active to this day. Some of them have served missions. Some of them have been sealed in the temple. And that's wonderful.
And all of their baptisms count for you.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. It's like the best multi-level marketing system.
The
It's
best
like
one.
Amway, right? Where I can just
Yeah.
sit back and be like, I'm a diamond member now.
Yeah, you are a diamond member.
But
We're all diamond
like
members now.
those things were great,
Aw.
but I feel like those moments I was just facilitating what was going to happen for that person. It was always going to happen
Totally.
at that time
Yeah.
in that way. But the moments that were for me, and maybe that makes me egotistical, whatever, I'll own it if it does. The moments that stand out the most for me are the ones where I'm like, this is what Cindy needed to do on her mission. I needed to be here for that little girl who needed a hug, or I need to be here for that man who needed me to help him carry something that he was too tired to carry, you know, like,
Yeah,
which
that's so
happened.
true. That's so true.
So that's yeah.
When you look at Jesus's life in the scriptures and you look at like sort of his day to day, I mean, you got like the big 5,000 plus crowd work sort of events. And then, but there's a lot of like little
Micro moments.
yeah, where he's just like going around doing stuff. And you're so right. Like that actually, like, I don't know. It was always some service activity or, you know, like help. It was like raining and these people were moving and we're like, do you need help? And a lot of time people would say no, but this particular time in the pouring rain and they had very little preparation, it seemed, in their move. Now we're helping. And so we just like look at each other and we're like, all right,
Let's do it.
yeah. And we're just
Yeah.
filthy and soaking wet and tired at the end of it. But it was like, this is totally what Jesus would do in this situation.
And it wasn't a ploy to be like,
No.
now you gotta listen
We
to
got-
us fools.
We got nothing out of that.
Right? Like, it was
Though I
just
think I
purely I mean you'd be like, we have a message, and they'd be like, no, we're good. And you're like, okay.
Well, we
Um,
totally guilted them because after, I think like we had the Book of Mormon. I think I was like reading out of the Book of Mormon while they're all like standing there, like hands on their hips, panting, like all right, well, like,
Thanks.
call this number in your new area, you know, wherever you're gonna be.
We so I was a welfare missionary. So I did proselyting, but then we also had this welfare training. So it was basically like community development programs and stuff that we try and implement. So we had this approach we called La Botella, the bottle. So we would walk around and we would knock on people's doors and we would be like, hey, we're in your neighborhood today teaching people how to store their grains so that they don't go bad. Can we teach you how? And they're like, okay. And so we teach them what you do. And then we'd be like, you know, there was a prophet in the Old Testament that had to store food for a long time. Do you remember that story? And they'd be like, I think so. I'd be like, yeah, so the prophet and blah, blah, blah. And we'd be like, there's a prophet today and we'd love to tell you about that. So it was just sort of like that foot in the door, and we did it
Yeah.
all the time. And, you know, we got in a lot of doors doing that.
Classic
but I
bait and
loved-
switch.
Give them something free,
That's right.
then you sell them something.
First one's for free.
Yeah.
But I felt better about that because I'm like, I'm giving you something that's useful.
And it is
that
valuable.
I can see
Yeah.
in your day-to-day life is valuable, because it was definitely like a subsistent lifestyle for most people. Like, you go and buy the food that you're going to use that day. And especially for people that were, you know, lower income, you'd say, they would get these big bags, especially refugees. They'd get these big bags of rice. But they would go bad before they could use them all. And so we're like, this is what you can do to make sure that they don't go bad.
Yeah.
So I was like, good, this is good practical advice. I feel good that I've left you with something. And if you want to learn more, great. If you don't, that's fine too. I feel like I've done my good.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
That is cool.
What would have been your version of that in Georgia?
Yeah.
Of giving away something for free.
Like, hey, we're just in the area. We're going to teach you how to blank.
Hey, do you need your gutters clean? Oh, raking leaves. That might be it. That might be the
We're
thing.
going to teach you a way to minimize the leaves.
No, there was no actual. No, that's a great idea. We didn't like teach. There was no knowledge, information, teaching that was happening besides gospel teaching. It was just like, hey, you need some hard labor done, and often people were like, haha, no. It was a bit of a bluff. It's always a bit of a bluff when you're offering hard labor to be like, hey, you want us to like go up on your roof and clean out your chimney? And they're like, haha, no. But then when they do say yes, it's like,
Damn it.
okay, I offered, and here I go. I don't know. Did you have an equivalent of that in Zona?
Well, I mean, it's not really an equivalent. Obviously, we didn't do the welfare stuff. But I'm thinking, like, what could we have done?
Yeah.
We could have gone around with, like, a bottle of roach spray.
Make sure to drink water.
Do you guys ever teach, like...
We're teaching lessons about staying hydrated.
Yeah.
And drinking from the water of life.
Bait and switch. That was a quick switch, though. That was a little too quick.
Well, I'm just
Holy
brainstorming.
Ghost is the electrolyte of life.
I mean, if you want to hear a bait and switch story, I've got a bait and switch story.
I do.
So let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably one I haven't told. Perfect.
Perfect.
We're not out of mission stories. So we get one of those like Salt Lake referrals that a guy was looking for a free copy.
Yeah, I never got those.
What do you mean?
Well,
No one
continue.
had TV or the internet there?
They didn't text into Salt Lake to ask for free stuff. No, yeah. So someone saw an ad on TV for a free King James version of the Bible.
KJV.
So we get the text message from Salt Lake that's like, give this man, Larry, a Bible.
Larry.
His name was Larry. And we're like, and we're like, do we even have any? And we like look in our car, we look in our apartment, and we're like, no. We're like, so should we wait? We're like, no. I was like, the spirit told me, I was like,
He
just
used
go.
quotation marks for those.
You're not supposed to say that.
So we just head over to Larry's house, and we're like, hey, you asked for the King James version of the Bible? He's like, yeah. We're like, why'd you do that?
Like, well, we don't have it.
Yeah. And he's just like, well, I was
Lawrence, we don't have your Bible.
Sorry, continue. Sorry.
And he's like, I have never read that translation before, and I have like the NIV, and so he's like, and it was free, so I thought I'll get it. And I was like, well, we have something even better. You're like, you ever heard of the Book of Mormon?
He's
like,
the Bible?
and his eyes light up. He's like, no.
That's great.
And it was a done deal after that.
Oh, I love it. You're just switching them so quick. You're like, oh, we're not even gonna give you the thing you
I don't
wanted.
think we ever did.
No, why would you?
We're just like,
Bible's not the keystone.
we're like, we're not going to order.
Like a Mormon.
We're not going to order in a box of King James versions of the Bible. We're never going to give them out.
No.
Adapt, improvise, overcome.
Action.
Was that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Decide, commit, succeed.
Yes.
So we're just like,
These sound like workplace motivational posters.
my mission was very much a business.
Oh.
Become, execute, solicitate. Don't know what that last word means. I think I just made it up. So there's a couple things I want to talk about, Cindy. I'm sorry. I just like hijacked the whole thing, and now it's on a different course. I ruined it. But I feel like you have some barn burner like I want you to give us a barn burner story, and then I do want to talk about like your experience in the church as a lady who is not married currently yet. And
Thank you for the yet. My mother thanks you also.
hey, I'm in the same boat, except I'm a man.
Yeah, and 5 years younger than me.
And so
nothing on your body's going bad.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Ever heard of visceral belly fat? Grows under your nose and you don't realize it till you're 30, and then it just sort of pokes out of all of your shirts. Okay, so do you have like I don't want to like put any pressure on you to have like a big barn burner, just like like a...
From my mission or from life, or what do you...
or from life.
You're talking
We just
mission?
want it to be barn burning.
I want you to burn a barn.
Could it combust? a standard
I want it to be
red painted barn.
the equivalent
Amish Pennsylvania Dutch barn.
style. Yeah, like this story would be the equivalent of watching a barn burn in interest. You'd be listening to this and also watching a barn burn. You'd be like, these are equivalent activities.
You know, this information would have been useful to me yesterday.
You know what? Never mind. Let's move on to your experience as a, because this, I just love talking about topics. I realize I just love it.
All right.
Lyndon. And then we also have to read an email, which is so heartwarming. Okay, but let's talk about that first. You're a woman,
Yeah, I
as
am.
we've established,
Yes.
and you are not yet married and in the church. How does your because I know what it's like to be a single man in the church and getting older, getting out of YSA pretty soon in like a year or so for myself. And it's like for myself, it's like a strange feeling of like, what do I do now? How do I fit into this? I want to get married and I would really like that. It hasn't happened yet for XYZ reason. I mean, like, who knows the reason why? Like, I just haven't found someone. I feel really defensive right now. Okay, just get off my back.
Well, I think I just found the reason, huh? What do you think, Lyndon? Huh?
I think
we
so.
just touched on the reason.
Touching a nerve here. I talk myself into like a panic attack mid podcast.
Shut up, Troy!
You're like, come on, I'll find someone.
No, I could do it.
There's nothing wrong with me.
I could do it.
Why do you guys think there's something wrong with me?
Why did you say that?
It's like, we haven't said anything for 20 minutes, Troy.
Many personalities of Troy. It's like split.
Yeah, I'm
your podcast.
split. I don't know. Have you had? And these are for you too, Lyndon. I know you got a girlfriend, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so great because I got a girlfriend."
You know, honestly, getting a girlfriend, the equivalent is becoming a district leader, where
Okay.
it's like overnight, suddenly
You're a better person.
Your hierarchy in the society just remember like missionaries
Yeah,
treating me so
it's
much
true.
better the day after I became a district leader.
Yeah.
It's like, you have a girlfriend, thumbs up from the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Your
like,
parents.
yeah. Everyone's just like,
The guy that
they're like, that
you buy
guy.
your Slurpee
peers.
from at 7-Eleven.
What is that famous quote? I think it was Alec Baldwin in some movie about being married. He's like, they know you're not gay.
Yeah.
They
The
know you're
Departed.
Yeah. It's like,
That's such
it's like they know you're not gay. They know you're not a crazy psycho.
You're stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
So that's just, those are fringe benefits.
Yeah. So you have no idea what we're talking about, Lyndon. Yeah, you do. You spent years.
I know what you guys are talking
You
about.
know.
I'm just saying I'm now,
on the other side of the looking glass,
yeah.
as it were.
So
No one frowns at me in the hallways at church anymore.
frowns at you.
Not to your face.
Yeah, just till
Just
you-
behind my back now.
just to my back, and I have a little camera to record it all, a little dash cam on the back of my neck. Wouldn't that be a funny thing to have? We should make them. Mission Stories brand neck cams.
So we're
Patent
all
pending.
old, unmarried Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Do you think that the church handles us correctly? Do we need handling?
Like dog handling, like in a dog show?
Yeah, like
Super
dog
dogs?
training. Do you think, honestly though, do you think that there's a way? Because here's the thing: there's a trend of people when they reach a certain age, and they feel lost, and it's like, I don't belong in the family ward, and apparently I don't belong in the young single adult ward. So how about I just try not going to church, see how that feels, and then it's like, oh, I got some free time on Sundays now, and then basically they go inactive. What do you think the church's approach to this, I guess, 30 to 40 group of people, and is it effective? What's your personal experience with it? That kind of thing.
I don't know if there's a diplomatic way of saying it. I think that the church sets up programs, auxiliaries, all these social programs in a hope that people will come together, that they'll feel something, that they'll recognize that it's the Spirit, that they'll gain a testimony of Jesus Christ, and that they'll be able to contribute and help other people do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the mission of all of these programs in the church is to bring people to Christ and bring people to the atonement. Where it becomes problematic is when people don't take that step. When people just come and they're like, this is great. This is a good party. I like it.
Yeah.
You know, I like going. I like feeling important. I like feeling like I have friends, like I, am established. This is my tribe, you know? But the problem is that, like, we go through these exoduses in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And age in the church, unfortunately, I will say, is a contributor to those exoduses, you know? You go on your mission at a certain age. You leave your family ward at a certain age. You leave the YSA ward at a certain age. Like, it's very relative to age. So we're obsessed with age in the church, number one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the problem is that people aren't taking that step into being able to stand on their own 2 feet with their testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Myself included. And I never thought I would be in that camp. I'm like, my testimony's solid.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But leaving YSA was hard. And it wasn't hard in the sense that it's like, well, I don't get to see my friends anymore. It's hard that I go to church and I don't have that my ego stroked by being like, this is my word. I've been here for 8+ years, or I've been here for 10 years. And like, this is my stomping grounds, you know, like to start from square one again and be like, holy crap, I have to rebuild this empire.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And it was my testimony that kept me going, because I'm like, I got to keep going to church.
Yeah.
I know this is the right thing to do. But I have a new understanding for people that are like, well, the church tells me that I'm basically a reject from the island of misfit toys now. Like, and so I'm walking around and people are like, oh, you're by yourself. Oh. You're single. Nobody wants you. Like, what's wrong with you? There
Shame.
must be something. Yes. Shame. Exactly. And I think everybody's quick to identify why you're single.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Or they'll try to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be a reason. It can't just be because.
Well, think about it. It's like the family ward. It's organized religion. It's ordered.
Yeah.
You're a little piece of chaos, where it's just like, so you're not in a family.
Yeah.
You're just a single entity meant to ruin our order.
So what do we do with you?
It's like, so then they're just they have to like project order onto you.
But see, I think that my pride was the issue too, because I didn't want to be
order.
I didn't want to be ministered to. I didn't want to be pitied. I didn't want to be like, oh, you can come and sit with us, you know?
I can sit wherever I want.
Even
I'll
though,
sit with you if I want to.
And that's just it. Like, it was pride, because, you know, a person who was secure and would be like, that's a really kind offer. Thank you. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get to know your family, and I'm going to buddy up with people. Like, that's a healthy approach to a situation like that.
Right.
But when you're feeling insecure and prideful and backed into a corner, your hackles go up and you're like, you take offense to so many things.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you're looking for reasons to justify why this isn't for you anymore.
Yeah.
And to get really real, I think that in some ways you feel betrayed, because you're like, hold on. The template was go on a mission, come home, go to school, get married, have kids. And when your life deviates from that, you're like, oh, well, I must be like malfunctioning.
I'm bad.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm intrinsically bad. I must have done something wrong, or I must have made a bad choice, or a series of bad choices, and now it's too late.
Yeah.
You know? And you feel like, oh, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, it is a strange thing. And it's, I don't know. It's like the older I get, the more I start to think about, like, just what am I? It's almost like it's my decision, and I should have been trying to make it long ago, but yeah, I don't know. So in your view, you think that like it's about people shouldn't be, and I sort of have this view as well in terms of like, you know, like when they'll put on like this big thing, like a dance, for instance, or a conference dedicated to like young people getting hooked up together and getting married, presumably or hopefully. And then people are like, boy, that concert or that, you know, thing kind of sucked. And it's like, well, what else do you want them to do? Do you know what I mean? Like match you
pick
up.
Pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And so, no, and I appreciate, because that's the ultimate point, right? Like, you can feel like, you know how I said, like, the betrayed. You feel betrayed, or you feel insecure, you feel prideful.
Yeah.
Like, when you can take a step back and try and be as objective as you can possibly be in looking at your own life, you have to realize, like, you haven't been betrayed by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if your faith is in Christ, if your faith is in the gospel of Jesus Christ, that's not dependent on another single living person on the earth. That's between you and Christ, and nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah.
And then you take that a step further and you go, okay, if my life reflects a disciple of Jesus Christ, what somebody who believes in Jesus Christ would do, then whatever comes from that is right. And it's what it's supposed to be, even if that means that I'm jobless and 40 and have 5 cats, and like, that's exactly what the Lord wants me to be doing. And that's exactly what my life is and always would be, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to speculate.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you can't just sit and wait for things to happen. If you're not going out and proactively being like, I'm going to ask people on dates, I'm going to do that self-inventory and be like, what are things that would make me a better partner, and work on them. And if you're doing that, then I think that it just gives you that peace of mind. Like, I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is the reason I'm not married has nothing to do with how terrible YSA dances have been?
No, I am not saying that. I think that they are directly related.
That's the big
Okay.
takeaway here.
Yeah.
The reason Lyndon and I are not married is because of the dances.
If the dances had been better,
Let's be honest.
we'd be married.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Or
what Cindy was saying.
Well, let me ask you
Yes.
this, though. Like, when you've been in relationships in the past, what has held you back from taking that step? Like, are you waiting for a confirmation, like, this is it? That just didn't come, or what was it?
Well, for me, I've had to learn to take a more pragmatic approach to revelation, or what I believe that God wants me to do, because I've had situations where I thought that God was like talking to me and like guiding me to do something, and I always hear a lot about, and I feel like we've talked, you know, ad nauseum about this on the podcast, but like the difference between the type of individual who'll be like, I just moved halfway across the world because I got a feeling to do it. And people maybe like myself who are, and probably Lyndon as well, who are like, okay, but like what? How? Like I would need more than that. I would need more than just a feeling to do that. And so, yeah, I don't know at this point. I mean, like for a long time, it was just that like I need to be able to provide for a wife and children. And I just couldn't do that while living at home in my parents' house and eating their food and going to school and, you know, taking medieval history classes. You know, like that just was, that's not going to pay the bill. That's not bringing the bacon home for, you know, wife and baby. So it was, and I was sort of a late bloomer in that regard. So it was like, I was only really in that regard able to provide for a family like, I don't know, 2 years ago. So I don't know. So the real question is, what's holding me back now?
We can explain all those years.
Yeah.
But what about now?
What about now is a little more complex, and I don't want to get into it. So thanks for having a mission story.
No, I think.
No, I don't know. I mean, that's something else we can get into if you like.
Well, I mean, it's up to you guys. I know this is getting a little bit heavy, and
Well, I wanted to hear more about the lady aspect.
all right.
Because sure, we're all old,
See,
unmarried Latter-day Saints.
Now this is the
Yeah.
thing. And maybe all women, all people.
Please speak for all women right now.
I can't, because I feel like there's a very small pocket of people that I can look at, and even smaller in the church, that I'm like, we're similar. I don't see myself in a lot of women in the church.
Yeah.
I can't.
In what
relate.
way?
I think that
Ideologically?
I've always had
behaviorally?
a bit of the Babylon about myself.
Okay. I touched the Babylon.
I touched the Babylon.
Okay.
And like,
I noticed that voice you used is from a show that probably the prophet would die if you watched one episode of 1 minute of.
but this
Big Mouth, I think. Is it called?
Oh no, I tried to watch that one and I couldn't do it.
Okay,
that
that's-
one was too much for
What's
me.
that from? What's that voice from?
I don't know.
It's a common accent.
It's a Maya Rudolph.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of
Derivative?
Like it, yeah.
So you're just
It's
doing more
like a
Saturday
Maya
Night
Rudolph,
Live.
Bill Cosby amalgam.
Oh, that's your Bill Cosby.
Anyways.
That's your BC.
Yeah, you can't do Bill Cosby on this show.
No. That's our one line. We will not cross.
No Bill Cosby.
No Cosby.
Get him out of here.
Like, as pathetic as it might be to some people for me to say, like, television and pop culture, things like that's a big part of my personality.
Yeah.
Humor, and that's how I connect with people. It's almost like I have a special form of autism where I can understand people through television. If that's a thing,
Sure.
come find me and study me, because that's what I have. And so that's how I see the world. And it's hard for me to find people who appreciate the same things that I do.
Yeah.
And when I do find people like that, oftentimes they don't feel the same way about the church as I do. So I feel like I'm this walking paradox, or like I'm a hypocrite, because I love the church and I love the gospel, and I'm in my mind, I'm in it for life. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I also, as my dad would say, maintain a summer home in Babylon.
You're like, and I keep it up and I keep it, it's tidy.
I mean, it's not something that
Ain't
I
no
go and
cobwebs
broadcast,
there.
but I know that to some people they'd be like,
No, I feel
you
ya.
think that's funny? Or,
Yeah.
whoa.
You
And-
watch that show?
Think
Yeah.
it's funny? No, it's funny.
It is funny. It's just objectively funny.
But yeah, so I think in terms of dating, in terms of finding a companion, I've always seen that as a drawback. That I'm not more of the stereotypical Mormon that's like, charitable and kind and, loving and compassionate.
You
and all that
are,
stuff.
though. You are those things.
Well, and I'm not fishing. Like,
And, no, I don't know you're not, but like, and you like crazy shows sometimes, or like sort of off color. You like Saturday Night Live.
well, yeah. I'm like,
Probably the
that's
prophet
life.
would die if he watched the best of Will Ferrell, or Christopher Walken.
But
or
this is the
whatever.
thing, is that I can honestly say, and maybe this is just a reflection of where I'm at in my gospel education, or my gospel, what's the word, like progression, is I don't feel like those things are contrary. Like, I don't think that those things are in contrast with each other.
Yeah.
I feel like it all jives somehow, and I have my limits, and I have the things where I'm like, no, that's too far, that's too much. But I don't feel like it's something that has to change right now. Maybe
Yeah.
eventually I will, and I'll be like, meh. And there have been things in the past, like in high school, I listened to Insane Clown Posse all the time.
No. What?
I did. I was one of those.
You were part of the posse, the Insane Clown.
The Great Malenko. Yeah,
They had a
that's right.
video game.
They did?
Did you know that? I think they had a video game. I'm pretty sure.
This news is very unseemly to me.
Yeah, right?
It's like a fighting game. I
Okay,
think.
but
Backyard fighting.
I do not listen to that anymore. That's a little too much for a lot too much for me. But like, I can see that progression where things that I thought were like funny or like cool.
Ironic. Hopefully. Just kidding.
Anyways, so for me, that's how I explain why I'm not with someone, is because I think, and maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but I think I'm looking for somebody who's who's operating maybe on a different plane.
Same wavelength as you.
Kind of. Yeah. Who's like, I don't know. And then there's obvious reasons too, right? It's like, well, you're old and you're not the young spry vixen you used to be. Things like that.
Right.
But,
yeah. I have a question for, and I don't want to.
You can ask me anything.
Maybe
Troy.
I'll just make a little note there where if we need to edit this out, then we can. And I don't want to out you, but you're someone who seems to have a very firm testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Sorry, when you said you don't want to out me, I'm like, where are you going with this, Troy?
We have photos of you kissing a poster of Lady Gaga.
Okay, not Lady Gaga, that's for sure. But
I love Lady Gaga.
You do?
She's so beautiful. I love her.
What?
She's gorgeous.
She is very pretty. I will give you that. But she would not be a go-to in my mind.
Who's your go-to?
In the lady category?
If you had to switch teams.
Okay, mine is purely based on personality.
Okay.
And the
Tina
fact
Fey.
that she's a lesbian.
Okay.
I can't think of a straight woman that I'd be like, yeah, I'd go with that. Kate McKinnon, 100%.
Okay. Interesting.
Who dat?
She's from SNL. She's a comedian. She was she was one of the 4 new Ghostbuster ladies.
Yeah.
Blonde hair.
Oh, let me guess, Lyndon.
Let me
you
guess.
didn't see the new
Didn't
Ghostbuster
watch
movie
it.
because it was women, right?
I didn't watch because it was trash.
You're the worst.
The fact that there were women cast, unrelated.
Was a big part of it.
Unrelated.
Anyways, sorry, continue.
So the question is, so we've talked to people like former.
Oh, I'm not a lesbian, by the way, but it's okay that people are lesbians. That's fine. I am not. Anyways.
Let it be recorded that Cindy thinks it's okay to be a lesbian.
Hey, I stand by that.
God loves all of his children.
Amen.
So, okay. Theo Gibb, I'll use as a case study. And I would sort of liken him to you in that I think he and you have a pretty good understanding of some of the historical, doctrinal, maybe inconsistencies or questions, sort of knowledge gaps that we have between what we believe and what is known about some of the things that we believe that would cause questions and concerns in the hearts and minds of some people. Mm-hmm. However, you seem to have a firm testimony and to want to stay in the church. And it's not even like, the surprising thing to me is not that you want to stay in the church. It's just it seems like you full-heartedly just believe. You're just like, yeah, everything's true. And for me, I sometimes struggle to say that I believe that it's all true. Mm-hmm. There are portions that I have trouble with because of those knowledge gaps that we have as a church. What's your secret is my question. Am I accurate in my appraisal? And if I am,
I mean, I guess I get a little bit anxious with the broad sweep of you believe in all of it.
Okay.
I don't know if I would say that.
Well, I've got a background question to go along with that. Just was kind of popped up in my head where it's like, hey, you're on the payroll.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I
so
forgot.
I'm like, I'm like, that's got to play into it.
No.
You're a church employee.
I am. If I was worried about me being a church employee, I probably wouldn't have said half of the things that I said tonight. But at the same time, I wouldn't hide anything that I've said from anybody. And that's one of the things that I love that I've learned of working for the church is that I don't have to hide my points of view. I really don't. And I've worked with people who don't hide their points of view. I think that it's all about the position that you take with your point of view. If you're not teachable and if you're like everyone has to change to fit me, then that's not going to work. But if you're like, I've been thoughtful about this and I just feel like this is the right thing. I feel like this is right. But if the Lord needs to correct me, I am open to that. Like that's the attitude that you have to have. So what I've said tonight feels right and it feels, but who knows, in a year in a year when you're still doing your podcast, you could have me back on and I could be singing a completely different tune.
100 years, baby.
100 years, Troy and Lyndon.
100 years. Szechuan sauce.
But anyways, how was the question you had? Like, how do I get to that point where I...
It's
I feel like what Troy's trying to ask is, shouldn't you be riddled with cognitive dissonance?
Oh, cognitive dissonance.
great. Yeah, that's
Yes,
it. That's what I'm
yes.
trying to say.
Okay, so...
Why don't you feel
yes.
how I feel is basically what I'm asking.
So I don't... What I get out
Or
of
how
the
do I get to
church-
feel like how you feel?
Well, first of all, if you want to feel how I feel, you're on a good track, right? If that makes sense.
Maybe.
No, if the desire's there, if you don't look at me and go like, she's brainwashed and she's
No,
poor
I'm-
her, then I think like if there's any sort of like, I'm intrigued by
I'm
that, then I
open-
think that that's good.
I'm open to being convinced with,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I want answers to the questions that I have.
So the only thing that I can really say, and this isn't going to be satisfying at
Sorry,
all.
can you just talk
Oh,
to the mic a little more?
yeah. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
The only thing that I can say, and this might not be satisfying at all, is there's a scripture in 2nd Nephi. And he says, it's 2nd Nephi chapter 4, Nephi's psalm. He says, I know in whom I've trusted. He's talking about at first like, I am such a horrible person and I'm a sinner and look at all these horrible things I've done. And we're so quick to be like, Nephi was such a good man. I'm like, we don't know. Nephi
Yeah.
could have done some skeevy stuff. We have no record of it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like Nephi
was a piece of crap.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying
we're
that
me tooing Nephi right now.
but I'm saying that for him to feel like have this racked soul over the thought of the sins that he's committed and how many times he's fallen away and come back and everything. But then in sort of the climax of this, he says, but I know in whom I've trusted. And the tide turns and he starts to remember all the times he's turned to the Lord, all the times that he's been delivered by the Lord. And this peace and this calm comes over him and he's like, no, that's the right place for me to be. I know. And then he starts glorifying God and praising God. And that's similar. I haven't reached that level of, commitment to the Lord or that level of, obedience or what have you, or perceived obedience. But that's what it comes back to me. My testimony has been rocked seriously. Less by things that I've learned about in church history, and I've learned about a lot, like all the big ones, I'm aware.
Yeah.
But more so the hands that people have been dealt in their life. That's what rocks me. That's what makes me go, a just God would not do that to someone. That does not make sense in the plan of salvation. Like, that is not building a family, that's destroying a family.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay.
And when I have to sit and ruminate with that stuff, that's what really gets me. And that's what makes me be like, I'm done. I'm done with all of this. Or there'll be days where I'm like, what if there is no God? What if I am brainwashed? What if there's nothing? What if it doesn't matter? What if it's all just a big biological mistake that we're here?
Yeah.
And I have to grapple with those thoughts too. But it always comes back to that. I felt it. I have felt the Holy Ghost. I have prayed for peace when I need peace, and I have felt peace. I have felt what it feels like to show someone kindness and compassion, and that's the best feeling I can feel. And so I'm like, there's nothing about the gospel of Jesus Christ, as I have learned it, as I have studied it, as I have practiced it, that I cannot stand beside. Yep.
I like your answer.
Oh, good.
I think, well, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I think you just said, and maybe why I like it. I like that because you account for the uncertainty, and you are not unaware of it. And I like that. I always struggle with people whenever someone's like, no, I know. No, 100% though, I know. It's just like, I think that just speaks to your naivety.
or just
You don't know what you don't know.
it's
You know
almost
what
like
I
a parakeet or like whatever,
Yeah.
like you're parroting. Like, I've heard people with strong testimony say this.
Yeah.
So if I say it, then it means it's true
I'm,
for me
I'm
too.
performing strong testimony right now.
That's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
and so I struggle with that just because of the struggles that I have had, and I just, like Lyndon said, I feel like that cognitive dissonance, like how can you know the things that I know and not feel the way that I feel? But what you're offering, I think what Theo offers, what he says as well, is sort of that, like, there is a decision you have to make to say, this has served me well. I've been served well by my dedication to and my living by the standards of this church and of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And in spite of the things that I do not know, I'm still willing to. I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still willing to be a part of it and to try to live it as best that I can. And I think that's a good way to do it, honestly.
I read this talk recently, and I can't remember who it was by. I could if I looked it up, but he tells a story of him camping in the desert with his family, and he walked off on his own, and his mom always told him, like, wear your shoes tight, like lace up your shoes, but he wears flip-flops, and he got stung by a scorpion. And they had to, like, I think they were in the Saudi Arabian desert for some weird reason. Anyways, so they had to, like, rush to the hospital, and this whole time they're thinking, like, he's gonna die. Or
Is he an Australian guy?
Yeah. Do you remember
this
one?
talk?
Yeah,
this was the last area of my mission. I think it was the last general conference of my mission.
Really? It's that old?
Yeah.
Burn. Anyways.
Oh, why? Okay.
Anyways, in it, he says that when we commit to the Lord, when we say, it's all yours, I am all yours, what do you need me to do? That he can actually heal us. And so, as somebody who has struggled with mental illness for a very significant portion of my life, the idea of healing, I'm not naive enough to be like, the Lord can cure me of my depression. Hallelujah. Like, do I think he could? Absolutely. Do I think he will? No, I don't, because that's a whole other story. But that idea of healing, that idea of healing your heart when you're feeling like you got nothing left, or healing your brain when you have that cognitive dissonance, when you can't make sense of something, like, that's healing.
Yeah.
And that comes through the atonement. And I can testify of that because I've experienced that. And the times when I've said, okay, I'm just going to commit to this, even if it doesn't feel natural, even if I really don't want to, I'm doing it because in my heart, I want to be on the Lord's side. And I want what he wants for me. I know what I want for myself, but I want what he wants for me. And when I do that, there's just this peace that comes into my life, and this calm and this new energy where I'm like, I can do it. I can do the things that I need to do. And I'll dip again. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But that's the pattern for me. And if it never gets beyond what I am right now, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So
beautifully spoken.
Oh, thank you,
Cindy.
Well, I am very articulate.
You are.
And I am exquisitely insightful.
You're
welcome.
You're one of my favorite people and favorite minds to converse with. I truly, like, honestly, you're a unique soul in this world and in this church, and it's honestly it has been nice to have someone like yourself, because we're kindred spirits.
I agree.
We connect on a lot of different,
we do,
comedically and
just perspective
as well.
I feel the same way about this one too.
And this one's
Lyndon,
pretty good too.
I haven't had as many heart-to-hearts with Lyndon, but we've had some good some good conversations.
You always let me print stuff in your office.
I sure do.
I've always loved that.
But I've always kind of felt like I have to work harder to...
Lyndon's like a cat.
Kind of. I'm like, does Lyndon think like I'm a big phony, or like I'm... Do you think I'm super
fake? You try
fake?
and scratch my belly without earning my trust. I'm like,
that's my thing. I'm like, I just don't want... do people think I'm fake?
No,
Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
Did you
I'm,
think?
really, I'm
did you
socially
think that I
paranoid
thought-
about that. Yeah.
Send in your emails. Do you think Cindy's fake? Let us know.
I'm not ready to hear your answer. Don't do it.
The hundreds of emails that will come pouring
I'm
in.
super insecure in general when it comes to stuff like that. So be gentle.
No, don't. Obviously, you are very sincere, and we appreciate you coming on. We have some emails to read, and I think they're two. Well,
Okay.
a reply
Gotcha.
to one email. If you recall, last week we read Alex Williams' email and on air, and he replied, "What do you mean? Wow!" And then he said, "I demand more content." Well, here you go, Alex. More content.
Here's our response.
Oh.
A new episode.
My podcast circuit continues later this month. I will be doing Alex Williams' podcast.
Oh.
There you go.
Remember when you replied to Troy's text, you signed an exclusive.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gonna have to-
So
Well,
Gonna
you
have to
can
cancel
come.
all those other engagements.
nothing you've talked about here is fair game for that podcast.
Oh, and by the way, everything's off the record.
Yeah. We got one more email to read. This is this was like a heartwarming email. It's from Andrew Cacao, our true and faithful listener and former guest, hopefully future guest. Maybe some background on it. I don't know if you noticed it. We talked about it last episode, but we went about a month without posting anything. Lyndon and I, we just sort of took a hiatus. We took 1 week off, and we're like,
An extended holiday break.
yeah, we're like, ooh, this feels good. And then the longer it went, the more we were like, should we just not do this anymore? And we were sort of I was at least kind of at a peace with it. And I think maybe Lyndon was too.
No, I was the opposite.
Were you the opposite?
Each time I got someone saying like, "Hey, when's the next episode coming?" I would just be like, I was like, "Now I'm gonna have to convince Troy to."
Okay, so really it was just me.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just me.
I was also at a certain peace about not doing it.
Yeah.
But the peer pressure got to me.
Yeah, so you're just buckled to peer pressure.
Well, because I got these heartwarming messages about what the podcast means to people, and I was like, we owe it to them.
Okay, so this email was like, I'll do this for 100 years more. It's from Andrew Cacao. He says, "Hi guys," and the subject matter is "Thanks for coming back." He says, "I would like to sincerely thank you for coming back. If you search, quote, Mormon on Apple Podcast app, the number one result is Mormon Stories, John DeLynne's thing, followed by the Fair Mormon podcast, and then a bunch of official LDS podcasts, all very serious, straight-laced podcasts. I would say the Mission Stories podcast has got to be the only lighthearted, fun, and casual Mormon-centered podcast. At the same time, you don't steer away from challenging topical issues and take the time to explore the nuance and gray areas. Your podcast has been a bright light for someone stuck in the no man's land between faith and doubt. I'd like to give you a sincere thank you for the work you're doing and hope you keep it up. Andrew." That warmed my little heart.
God bless him.
God bless you, Andrew. And I guess it truly, if this podcast is for someone, it is for me anyway, because it's almost like that's what it is for me, is that if it's for the true and faithful church member, and it's for the person who isn't sure about some things anymore, but wants to be true and faithful, but also is like, huh? What? Seer stones? What? Salamander papers? What? What's that? And it's okay to talk about that kind of stuff, and it's okay to still go to church and to do all the things and to be here, and to
crack wise about it.
And to crack wise about it. And so if that's the space that we fill, presumably for 30 to 40-year-old, returned missionary married men, probably, then I'm very happy to do it, and I'm glad to do it. And Lyndon, always a pleasure. This is like, if we can just keep doing this, even, for 100 more years, even, I would be happy with that.
Yeah. That was the feedback I got recently in person. They're like, It feels like we're just hanging out with Troy and Lyndon.
Yeah.
Which everyone wants to do. You guys are like a hot commodity.
And they can by listening to the podcast.
That's right.
We now broadcast
Sufficient.
that commodity.
Yeah.
Soon the holograms will come.
Yes. So anyway, I just want to say thanks again to anyone who still listens to this podcast. And thank you, Cindy, for coming on. Thank you, Lyndon, for always being here and for helping to start it up again. And I think what we need to work on is getting this in front of the right people, you know, those people who are looking for that thing. Because I think we do we strike a particular balance that I think a lot of particular set of people would be interested in listening to, and we need to get that more. So, hey, listen, if you have friends who feel like you do and want to sort of trod this territory that we trod, recommend the podcast to them. Subscribe to the podcast. Share the podcast. Because
Not to everyone.
Not to everyone.
Only the true and faithful.
Just people who you think will enjoy it. We want to keep this like
Think of
intimate.
it as starting an offshoot of the church, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what we're doing here, right? That's what it's all about.
No, Cindy. I think you missed the whole point of what we've just been talking about.
We rented that building for another reason.
The Kool-Aid is getting warm.
I was just about to say, I'm going to have to return all that Kool-Aid.
And those
Get
white
your
tennis sneakers.
Your white Nikes and your... we should get some of those.
I want some Mission Stories branded sneakers.
Yeah, tracksuits and sneakers.
I should say
Kool-Aid.
before you wrap things up,
Sure.
I feel like I have not explained the iniquitous nature of my mission very articulately. And if there was someone who was like, that's not right, please let me know. Because I am just going off of secondhand
Yeah.
what I was told by people who went through it. So
And you're always welcome to come back, Cindy, and set the record straight if need be.
If need be. So let me know if I'm wrong.
Will do. All right. Thank you, Cindy. Lyndon, what else? Is there anything else we need to discuss or touch upon?
I think the last thing we got to remember is just to stay true and faithful.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.